Hello and welcome to the Gooners Podcast, episode 5.19, which is also known as Mike's Tools Are Down. This is a newscast starring Eoin from @GoonerCrake. Eoin, thank you for joining us tonight and for taking the baton from me in just a second, because I am too weak and feeble to host this show tonight.
That's before COVID too. Look at the stadium.
Do
you want to know what I would feel so guilty, because it's been a while since Andy has been on. Very responsible, Fergus. Always wear your mask. I would feel terrible about Andy not being on, but it's good to see that we're sort of commemorating him with his lovely poster in the background there.
Yes, this is him holding my name tag from a work conference I had.
Are you sure that's him? It's not Ozil?
And we also have the person who just piped up, Fergus from @Guns and Ribbons. Fergus, been a while since you joined us on the pod, but it's wonderful to have. In fact, I don't know that you've ever joined us on the pod. I know I've been on yours. No, you have been on ours. That's true. So you're not breaking your duck.
No, I've had my bell rung by you once or twice before.
That's true, and don't ever forget it. It's an occasion that doesn't go from the memory soon. And Ola, you are representing the combat show here. Ola, it's been a while since we've had you on the podcast. Because you've been because I don't even know if you watch Arsenal anymore. You're too into the fighting. You're a combat master.
Yeah, a lot of it's been down to work and making schedules for podcast show. A lot of them don't want to wait till I finish work, and I got to put food on the table. Well, I got kids.
We put our podcast timing specifically around when Ola's going to be around. So,
like I said, I'm always happy to do it if I'm able to get back from work and turn up like this. So yeah, man, it's nice to actually be back on your show, because we used to pull up some weekend international specials. But
Ola, you need to do what our good friend Mike Hernandez done, and it's forget about his 54 children and quit your job, because the best thing that you can have within the Arsenal podcasting world is availability. And Mike's kids have been living on bread and milk for the past 6 months, while he's attempting to make a name for himself. So it's a brave move from Mike, but that's what you need to do, Ola. That's my advice to you.
It's actually been
good advice. I'll look into that. But when I get sent to live in the shed in the winter, I will be knocking on your door. Well, I've got experiences of knocking on people's door. I trust you.
we have divided, the screen specifically to have Irish people on the one side and the Jewish people on the other side. So
I is Blackie Jew tonight, man.
The well endowed and the Irish people.
You know what that means. Me and Owen must be left footers. That's what they reckon.
You're left-sided left footers. So, well, thank you for the chat for joining us. We got all the people who are in here are in the chat. Apparently, we've got Becca as well, whose picture I love looking at. So we're just going to keep putting this up every 2 seconds. Mike Hernandez, Kelly McCollum, Becca also getting over COVID. In fact, I got it from her, if you know what I'm saying. But Mike Hernandez. We've got Carrie McCollum in the chat, Danny the GFP. Thanks for joining us. And there are a few people who are probably seeing us on Twitter right now on Periscope, and they're like, how do I get this off my screen? So in any case, Eoin, we got to talk about Arsenal.
Do we?
We do.
Can we not avoid it?
I mean, Sunday, I woke up in a COVID haze. The one symptom I seem to have is this fatigue and tiredness and anxiety, and my head feels weird, and I'm like, all right, well, at least Sunday I'll pull out of this. We'll do Tottenham. We'll get this done, and things will be back on track. Did that happen? Because I've been sleeping for the last 5 days.
Absolutely not. And I tell you, it's becoming a struggle to come on here week after week on multiple shows and try and remain positive. And I was mentioning pre-pod that there's a bit of a different sort of dynamic to it tonight, because normally, as I said, I try to be quite sort of level-headed and stay impartial when I'm asking questions, but a lot of them tonight is sort of me asking you the questions that I've been asking myself around the team and Mikel Arteta that have arisen in recent weeks. So I think we'll jump in where we always start with, Ola, and it's the lineup. And not just to go through the lineup, but to go through the exclusions of the lineup, because one of the big questions I've had of Mikel Arteta is what do you need to do to earn yourself a place in this team, and what do you need to do to be removed from the team? And I think the two main people probably we would talk about after their Europa League displays is Ainsley Maitland-Niles and Reiss Nelson. Do you think that these two players were hard done by, and what has that made you feel in terms of Mikel Arteta's team selections in hindsight?
I don't trust him. I don't feel like I trust him, and I'll tell you why. In the summer, Mainsley, as we call him, Mike.
Yes.
Shout out to Tom.
Ola was actually one of the few people at the creation of Mainsley.
At the birth of it, like we were right there in the stadium with it. So, shout out to Tom.
Breath droplets from Tom Canton saying Mainsley came onto our faces while you were taking a swig from your from my rum, from your flask, yes,
from my hip flask. So check it out now. He was about to go Wolves, right? Arteta kept playing him and saying, "Listen, I'm playing him in all the important games. How else am I going to show him that I want you here and I want to give you a chance?" I played in the first 11, and every time he played him, he performed well. Against City, had Mahrez in his pocket. Against Wolves, had Traore in his pocket, and the list goes on where Ainsley is coming to play, while Mikel was trying to keep him and not letting him go to Wolves. And he told her, he sold it to me, that okay, well, I'm trying to show Mainsley now that I have full trust in him. I'm playing him in all the important games. I'm expecting Bellerin to bugger off because and keeping Ainsley was going to be all right. We'll make money off of Bellerin, and we'll keep Mainsley and Cedric there. So I'm thinking, okay, that's going to be our new fullback pairing. Hector didn't go nowhere, and Mainsley falls by the wayside. I don't know what's happening there. Whether it's a Spanish connection, I don't know what's going on with them two. But Bellerin keeps making mistake after mistake after mistake. I mean, the foul throws is ridiculous. I've said it so many times. Like who's sanctioned going to get this Brentford set piece specialist coach that we got? Who sanctioned it?
I think he's a spy trying to get Brentford to switch positions with us.
I don't know what. So we got the set piece coach, and we watched Benrahma go to West Ham, and didn't even attempt. And we need creativity, and we didn't even attempt to try and get. And we let Benrahma just go to West Ham, and we see what he's been doing this season. Mm-hmm. They were above us going into this weekend's game. That's how good they've been. And he's been very, very instrumental in that as well. So doing what he's done to Ainsley Maitland-Niles, I don't agree with it. Nelson, so much, I don't have too much of a case for him, even though he's performed well in the Europa League games. I'm still not convinced.
I suppose with Reiss Nelson, the push there isn't so much as him being spectacular. It's the fact that Willian has been
still a better option than Willian. Absolutely, he's still a better option than Willian. I agree with you 100%. And yeah, maybe he should have, had the shot as well. It makes me not trust Arteta with what's going on at the moment.
It's very concerning to me that at this stage, regardless of the poor form from many players, and we'll touch on sort of them individuals more later on, but at this stage of the season, you should really know your starting 11, and bar maybe one or two different changes because of injury or suspension, the team should really be set in stone now at this stage. And as you said, it's quite concerning that each week you really don't know what you're going to get, and players aren't getting in off performance merit. They're getting in because of their names now at this stage, and it's becoming a bit of an issue. But Fergus, somebody that Ola did touch on there was Hector Bellerin, and we'll sort of walk briefly through the Spurs goal, which was Hector Bellerin again caught massively out of position. Heung-min Son gets one-on-one with Rob Holding, too much distance, sort of, I would say, from Rob Holding, but he was left with very little options because of how isolated Bellerin left him. But not only that, as Ola mentioned, them foul throws. There has been 16 foul throw-ins taken in the Premier League this season. He has been responsible for 7 of them. I remember playing youth football. By the age of under 9s football, it was unforgivable not to know how to take a throw-in. This is a player that Mikel Arteta identified. This is somebody that the club were willing to possibly move on in the summer, and Mikel Arteta said, no, he's a leader in the dressing room. We'd like him to stay. Do you think that maybe there's been too much loyalty shown to Hector Bellerin and maybe a little too much leeway given to him because of that injury that he sustained?
Yeah, I think a lot of the fan base used the excuse to say, well, it was his injury, this, that, and the other. I don't believe that Hector had much more to offer defensively. I've never been a huge fan of Hector. I thought Hector, when he was breaking through as in the like a young player, looked really strong, really fast, and everything else. But I also felt that he ended up standing up the pitch too much and too far up the pitch, like he did against Tottenham for the 2 goals. I feel that he vacates the right back too much, and the only thing he had going for him was his pace. Since his injury, he lost that pace. His crossing is poor. I do believe that he looks better than he has looked for a number of months, probably for 18 months or so of recent, and he has put some incisive passes through the middle of the park and changed the direction of our game. But overall, I, as I said, I'm not a fan. Where I think the loyalty stands with him is he's been with the club for quite some time. There's been a lot of change within the club, and I think he's one of the few that type of know what bars the likes of maybe Iwobi, who was there, and some of the academy boys, Maitland-Niles and so on. But he's one of the more senior players that could possibly step up into a captain role. Not that I'd like him to be in a captain role, but I would. What's that? If you like how Fergus looks, even if you don't, please hit the thumbs down button.
I'm just covering our voices.
So you just threw me. You asked me a bloody question.
We're so professional.
You let Mike get you, man. Mike just got you right there.
But to be honest, the second that Son got that ball, regardless of where Hector was on the pitch, the second that ball came across to him, I went, it's a goal. It's an absolute goal. So I'm not a fan. I won't answer your question.
But with that goal, Fergus, all right, well, there's 2 questions I have just to follow on. The first one is that although Hector Bellerin's positioning has been questionable, do you think that, like, we'll move on to the second goal after this, but do you think that him being so far up the pitch is a systemic decision from Mikel Arteta, that's encouraged? Because it can't be, mistakes like that can't happen over and over again without that being corrected. And I suppose the second question is, you said it's such a strike, and it was an absolute. I initially sort of had question marks over Leno's positioning, but after watching the replays, he couldn't really do too much. But what I do have an issue with is that I think that Rob Holding, although his options were limited, he could have done more. There's given people space, and then there's given them the whole fucking pitch to run into. You know what I mean?
I do get that, and I do see your point where Holden was running out to cover Hector where he should have been, but who should have been covering from in the first place? If the right back has been pushed forward, then Willian or whoever's in that position should be dropping back. Maybe Xhaka should have been dropping into that area. Maybe Partey should have been dropping into that area. One of the defensive midfield players, or Willian, should have been dropping back to cover him. So as much as I don't like him, he's getting a lot of flack, possibly not totally justified.
Well, and you know that that's what Tottenham are going to do. I mean, that's what a Jose Mourinho team is looking to do.
I was going to say Jose, forget about Tottenham, whatever team it is.
Well, right. But to spring a counterattack like that And if you're going to have Bellerin that far up the pitch, there better be some people drilled to understand what's going to happen if we lose possession. And to have Rob Holding be literally the only person within 50 yards of the ball once Kane sets Son free, it's just, that's where you got to look at the coaching.
But even something as simple as this, Mike, and I know this might sound stupid and people can criticize this, but I have done this playing at low level football before. It was so obvious, and I have messages that are time-stamped to a friend of mine saying that our right-hand side and their left-hand side is where the damage is going to be done today, because the link-up of Hector Bellerin and Rob Holding is weak. It is. The two limited players that maybe are playing slightly above their level. What I don't get is after the first goal goes in, whether it be Mikel Arteta or the backline themselves, a senior member in the squad, is move Gabriel into the right centre-back slot beside Hector Bellerin and put Rob Holding beside Kieran Tierney, because then what you have is a defensively solid player, defensively weak player, defensively solid player, and a defensively weak player. You're spreading it out over the backline instead of having such a reinforced side and then such an exposed side. You know, it's common sense things like this in football that may seem sort of very mundane tactically, but they work. You know what I mean? And those lack of adjustments concern me. But we'll move on to something else, Mike. All right?
Eoin, can I ask you a question? Do you like wearing Armani?
Armani?
Yeah. If you do, you got the job. You can take them.
I'm telling you, buddy.
Just before you move on, you asked the question about Maitland-Niles and Nelson. I probably wouldn't have started Nelson, but Maitland-Niles, what position do you start him in? If you're going to start him to replace Partey or Xhaka in the central midfield role, which he played very well in the Europa League, I think he proved himself that he deserves a start there. But do you play him in Bellerin's position, or do you play him in that role he's dying for?
I would turn around to Ainsley Maitland-Niles, and it's a job that he does fantastically well, arguably the best in our squad at doing it. And I would say wherever Heung-Min Son goes, you go. I don't care what position you're playing, but you stay on his heels the entire 90 minutes.
You can call that position the pocket, because wherever he goes is the pocket that someone needs to be put in, and he's shown time and time again that he's capable of doing that.
He's got such a catalogue.
Not every team has
players that he has pocketed within these games, you know. And
now Burnley might not necessarily have that one player, so you know, put him in center midfield and see how he performs. Just, you know, running all over the pitch using the legs that he's talking about, because there isn't necessarily a person that needs to go into his pocket. But when you're playing a team that has Son or you know, Man City when they had Sané or Mahrez, you know, when there's a target guy that you got to keep an eye on, Chelsea on Boxing Day, if he's not out there, then what are we doing?
Yeah, I suppose, and it's the fact that there was money on the table, and why didn't they move him on if they did not have a plan for him? But we'll move on to something else I got very sort of frustrated with, and I'll hold my opinion on this because I don't want to taint you guys' opinion, and I'll sort of open the forum here. So, but Mike, we can start with you. Leading up to the second goal, we are actually attacking, and the ball breaks. Thomas Partey walks off the pitch. Eventually, Kane puts the ball into the back of the net. We'll not go through that in too much detail, but it's more the incident of Partey walking off the pitch.
He actually put it to the top of the net.
Yeah, it was very Podolski-esque, but it was more the incident of Partey walking off the pitch and Arteta pushing him back on. What did you make of that incident? Do you think that Partey was in the wrong? Do you side with Arteta, or do you think Arteta was maybe in the wrong trying to push a player back on?
Well, it's kind of interesting because I was just on Danny's podcast on the Bergkamp Wonderland, and my initial thought is, look, if the guy's hurt and you know, it could be argued, let's just forget, you know, should he have been out there or not, because no one really knows what was known and what the risk was. But clearly he re-injured himself, and badly. And whether he walked off or whether he went down and held his legs, that wasn't going to stop the run of play. So, you know, to me, I kind of sided with the player there in, you know, that, look, he walked off instead of went down, but for Arteta to, you know, to push him out there to try to, you know, potentially re-injure himself or injure himself worse was kind of heat of the moment. I didn't support that at all. it was mentioned to me that, you don't walk off the pitch. If you're hurt, go down. But never walk off the pitch. Never pull yourself out of the game. Go down if you need to. And if that's a hard and fast rule, then by all means he shouldn't have done that. But I have a bigger concern with him throwing him under the bus after the game. Arteta's man management and doing that just doesn't seem right there. And we brought him on into this club to be one of the tougher, and he's proven to be one of the tougher kind of destroyer types. He's not a pussy. Let's put it that way. And for him to come off injured, I believe he truly was hurt, not just taking a moment off of the game at an important time. And so I don't love Arteta kind of picking him out and digging him out, as it were, for doing that. But not impressed with Arteta and in that instance, and not thrilled about the next 2 to 3 months without the services of Thomas Partey. I think it's a bad look to push him back out on the pitch. It may be the tough thing to do, but it certainly wasn't the right thing to do.
Ola, what do you make of that whole situation?
To me, it's not so much of what happened on the pitch with Partey now. It's who sanctioned him to be on in the first place, because clearly he wasn't fit. He wasn't fit, and we've just paid 45 million for this player. He's got a thigh strain, and we've got fit Ceballos, we've got fit Willock, we've got fit El Nene, and we opt to play a 40-50% Partey. Yes, a 40-50% Partey might have been good in, say, for 40 minutes. But then, what does that do for the rest of the season? And we know how injuries work, especially when you play for Arsenal. Like, we've not been blessed with players that stay fit all through the season. We've only had a couple of them, like maybe Aubameyang or Sanchez, or we've not been blessed with players that stay fit.
That's the understatement of the year.
It's just one of those that you think, all right, we've paid so much money for this guy. Is a big part of what Arteta's got planned going forward. Why risk playing him in the first place for that to happen, and then you're not making the player look bad because it's come to help you. All right, there's probably a player code. It should have gone down and not. It doesn't mean Tottenham players are going to put the ball out. This is a derby game. Whether you go down or not, if they've got the ball, they don't care. So probably him coming off the field might have stopped the play from the ref, and the ref wanted to know what was going on. And when he got pushed back onto the pitch, could the ref have booked him and said, I didn't allow you to come back on the pitch. If you came off injured, you should not be coming back on the pitch until you've been allowed to come back on the pitch.
He didn't actually leave the pitch. He was leaving.
Was it on the line? Was it just by the line? Or right? Yeah. I mean,
that would have been so Arsenal. We get a yellow card on top of everything else.
On top of everything else, it's just something that we'll do. So, I mean, it's just a bad look all around, and I don't think Partey should have played, irrespective of it being a derby. I mean, we're still going to play them at home. I'd rather play Partey having a chance to play them at home when we get the next chance to play them, and get a better and a fit Partey when we've got 3 midfielders there that could have done something. So that's my take on it.
Mike Hurst calling you out, Ola. He wants to fight you.
He wants to
go into the octagon. Him and his 14,000 kids are going to go into the octagon with you. It's going to be like that Neymar video with the 1,000 Chinese kids chasing him around, or the Brazilian kid. I think he did it in China too. But
I mean, Partey complaining about injuring himself. If he hadn't been selected in the first place, he wouldn't be complaining about injuring himself.
I didn't hear a ton of people from the time that the Bell tweeted that he was going to be playing to the time that he went off injured. I didn't hear a ton of people saying that he shouldn't be risked. I'm hearing a lot of
There's
that. We don't know how fit it was, whether it was 90% fit or 40% fit. Clearly, it was 40 or maybe even less than 40.
Do you want to know what? We are fans, and Fergus, maybe you can take this one. It's the responsibility of the manager, surely, regardless of how hard the fans are pushing and how hard the players pushing. It's the manager and the medical team's responsibility to, number one, oversee the welfare of that player, and number two, make sure that he's going to be physically fit to effectively do his job, which he wasn't in the end.
I agree with you. It is the manager and the medical team's responsibility, but as a fan, I don't give a flying fig. We done a podcast just before the team lineups came, and we came along and said if Partey's fit enough to go on the bench, he starts. So if you're fit enough to go on the bench, you should be fit enough to play. Clearly, on hindsight, he wasn't fit enough to go on the bench. That was done because probably Arteta's under a little bit of pressure. The team are under pressure, and to keep the fans on social media, podcasts, Twitter, everything else happy. I'm sure they're playing to the audience rather than playing. They're not in control of themselves, and that's a sign of a bit of panic. I watched the first half. I went to the pub and watched the first half, and left at half time and went home because when you turn up to a Christmas party when everyone's pissed and you're sober. It was like that. Everyone had been pre-drinking and everything else, and I had 2 beers and I came home and I thought I just thought I'll watch the game. But in that first half, I watched Partey, and the amount of short passes he just looked short of fitness. And when he pulled himself up injured, I wasn't surprised. I was very upset and disappointed. But Ola, you talked about, it's a typical Arsenal thing about having so much injuries and fitness. Tell that to a Liverpool fan, which half their squad has been decimated by injuries and so on.
Yeah, it's been going on for 20 years for us, though.
Exactly, and the Liverpool team as well. They way in a different stratosphere to us. That if they lose maybe 3 players, they've still got quality to get results against average oppositions. We can't even get results against average oppositions.
So Ola, the problem isn't injuries. The problem is our squad and investment in. Our team.
It's golf and quality. Actually, that's part of it. But I mean, we've been suffering from injury for a long time.
We could back it up 10 years ago. We can't back it up now.
Yeah.
I think right. I'll have my rant now because I've tried to remain impartial, but I'm pretty sure it's probably shone through already. Going back to the Partey incident, I think that I'll say this before. I've been very vocally backing of Mikel Arteta. I really like him as a person. I hope that he can turn things around and do well as a coach. But I thought that was an absolute fucking disgrace from a football manager. A player approaches you, obviously injured. I mentioned that when you're in extreme pain or extreme frustration, you can do things that are out of character, walking over to the sideline. And he obviously injured himself in that sort of tackle. I think it was with Harry Kane about 30 seconds beforehand, and he approached Mikel Arteta, and the damage that sprint that Partey attempted because the manager pushed him out onto the pitch could be the difference between 2 weeks out and 3 months out. And for Mikel Arteta to do that, which I think he did it because of the pressure. People say he could have went down, he could have Spurs, as you mentioned, there's no fucking chance in hell Spurs are putting the ball out for an Arsenal player sitting on his arse, and there's no way that the referee is stopping it because an Arsenal player is sitting on his arse. It's not happening. And what is he going to do if he just fucking stands there? Absolutely nothing at all. So I think it's moronic to blame the player. Okay, maybe it's not the most professional thing to do, but I'm sure his head maybe just wasn't clear. And there's multiple things that Mikel Arteta has started to do, which we'll touch on in a bit, that have me questioning him probably more so than I ever have. But we'll move on from that there. Ola.
Quick comment from Kevin, by the way, before we move on. Wish everyone well, especially Fergus. So he wants me to enjoy. He wants Fergus to do well. And Ola, Owen, I'm sorry, Mr. Kimmel does not care about you.
We love you, KC.
It's all blessed. We got drunk together one time. round about your birthday.
That was the same day that Angel was created as well, actually. So
yeah.
But
that's why you dropped the dick in the pint.
Well, I'm sure that Kevin's going to be raging because
Kevin was not there yet when that happened. I don't want that out of proportion.
Well, it
happened on that day, Kevin. It happened on that day, Kevin.
I was going to invite Kevin on my very prestigious podcast, and now that's been retracted. Kevin, your invitation was in the mail, but just forget about it now.
Yeah, look at you, tough guy. Did we not see the chickens coming home to roost over the last decade? I mean, it's hard to say that this hasn't been coming, but I don't think anyone's really wanted to suck it up and realize it. But Fergus, since he loves you the most, did we see the chickens coming home to roost?
Some did see it more than others. I probably saw it 4 or 5 years ago. But you can see when the decline started, probably 2010, losing to Birmingham in the League Cup final, and then slowly having to sell off the crown jewels just to keep the electricity meter going at the new stadium. There was financial crisis with the credit crunch and everything else, which had impact on the club with other reasons, which made us do some of our actions that we had to do. But nonetheless, we had to sell everybody off, and we were told, and I'm not one of these guys, and you know me, Mike, I'm not one of these guys who goes, oh, we should never left Highbury and everything else. We need to move on. We need to progress and everything else. But we were promised that we would compete with the likes of Real Madrid, Barcelona, Man United, Man City, you name, just a long list. And we're not doing that. And if anything else, we're doing far from that. So, yeah, we did see the chickens come home to roost.
I'm going to move on, lads, Ola, to another player that frustrated me a lot. Somebody that we should probably be expecting much, much more of, if not in performance, is in attitude, and it's Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. I've mentioned before that when you put the captain's armband on for a club like Arsenal, it means more than just lead by example in performances. You really need to galvanise the team through difficult moments, and he seems to be...
I'm looking for a cap, and I'm not going to look at the TV screen. I'm not going to talk to anybody. My body language is going to be really negative.
Fergus's body language sucks.
Yeah, exactly. It's brutally frustrating that one of our most senior players and better players is running about doing next to absolutely nothing. You know what I mean? And I've mentioned on previous occasions that I think that too much blame. There is blame that needs to be assigned to our midfield, but too much blame is put solely on the midfield, because in order for them to pass the ball to somebody, there needs to be the option to pass. And he's doing, the runs that we sort of, that we relate to Aubameyang, those off the shoulder runs, running into space, a lot of movement, dragging players. He's doing none of it. This is the one thing that I think. Do you think, in a way, that we are seeing regret from Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang about signing that contract extension?
Nope.
Nope. Look, this is my take on it. Did you want to answer it? Go on.
I don't mind. Go first, but I'm chomping a bit on this one because me and
go
Mike.
ahead.
I thought he shouted. I thought Eoin shouted me. Was it for Fergus?
Either or. Fergus looks like he's ready to kill somebody, so I'm going to let him go first.
Go on, Fergus. Yeah, man.
So, Ola, thank you. With Aubameyang, there's two reasons. There was two things I thought was poor on Aubameyang. There's something going on behind the scenes in the club that we don't know about, and let's park that to a certain issue because that's a long way off. The body language, which was just put up there, the body language of him on that video clip with his head down. Okay, he may have been talking to a laptop or whatever, and saying that he was, all the team are really looking forward to tomorrow, and yeah, we're gonna be fully committed and everything else. Surely the club saw that and went, that's crap. We can't put that out. Some people said it was a wind-up. It was something to ruse them in. But we obviously aren't good enough to compete against Spurs the way they're playing a Mourinho more often than not. So it just made Aubameyang look awful. Tactically then, our team is playing that doesn't suit. We talk about midfield, but you talk about the wingers. The wingers put in 34 crosses to Aubameyang. Alex Scott on Sky was bang on. She said 74 goals he scored from for Arsenal in the Premier League, 3 by his head. Why but in so many feckin' crosses? Mm-hmm. Sorry, Ola, over to you.
To me, it's I see more of a coaching problem, and it's been down to the amount of touches that we take during the game. I've gone back and watched a few games, and I can't believe the amount of touches our midfielders want to take, our defense want to take, getting the ball forward. 4 or 5 touches every time. How in the hell are you gonna get a player like Aubameyang that loves to run off shoulders to even attack the ball? Mm-hmm. It's hard to give movement when the defenders are set on you because your midfield and your defenders are taking 3, 4, 5 touches. 1 touch, 2 touch control. On the second touch, the ball should be moving. We don't do that enough, and it allows all the opposition to actually set their stall on our attacking and so-called creative players. Here's
a question for y'all. Okay, this is the one criticism that I have. Okay, I understand that it's difficult for Aubameyang in this current system, but what I would like to see from him is something that I see from Harry Kane, from Sergio Aguero, from all these other strikers, is that I would like to see Aubameyang try more often what he is good at, to try and create something for himself, to turn around when he does get those limited touches, try to knock the ball past a man and turn and run, because he can beat anybody.
I get that, and this is not to defend Aubameyang because I think he's been poor, but I'm trying to maybe shine a light of some of what could have been the reasons why he's been like that. So when you're expecting him to do something like what you're saying about Kane and all these other strikers that try to improvise, confidence is a big thing for strikers. Mm-hmm. When you've lost 4 or 5 games in a row and you're not scoring, where Arsenal's goal of the month is the only penalty you scored against Manchester United, that in itself is embarrassing, and that will further knock his confidence down. It will. Mm-hmm. And it only takes a tweak of a mind, but also the team playing well and being in a positive sort of vibe where they just want to get everything forward. Their first thinking is we were playing like that towards the end of the season. All them cup games that we played, when that was how we were playing. We weren't taking 4 or 5 touches. It was 1-2, and we were moving the ball forward. The way Arteta got them playing out at the back, everything was 1 touch, 2 touch at most. You're having 2 touches and you're passing the ball. But right now, over the last, I would say, maybe even from West Ham, because even though we beat them, I didn't think we played well. And we had the same problem. And it's been like that since. Taking 4 or 5 touches every time. That's more of a coaching problem than a striker problem. Because look, Aubameyang has never gone through this in his entire career. Not that I know of. Anyways, maybe when he was first coming up, but since he got, he's never gone through this. And
he's gone 539 minutes without a goal. Previously, it was 128 minutes.
Fergus, if your best friend though moved to New York in the middle of a season to start a job with Barstool Sports, wouldn't you have a struggle for a little while? I mean.
He's getting a big wage, and he should be doing way more.
I'm gonna get a hand roll.
Scoring, if you're not scoring goals, to me, you gotta be affecting the game in
Well, let's move on. Let's move.
You gotta be affecting the game.
I don't understand that we're really excusing him. The guy is in a absolute just shit run of form, and Fergus, as much as we almost broke up on Friday talking about his body language, and that I didn't think it was a big deal that he had poor body language in a media piece.
Was right.
Well, I don't know that you were right, but
I was right.
He wasn't wrong. Is that what you're trying to say?
Okay, let's
I don't know if you were right. Yeah, I'm not going to say that you were right, but I'm not going to not say that you were right. And It didn't certainly help his body language on Sunday was.
Owen, can you just this little bit here? Can you just snip this? This is him squirming, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, it's done.
Well, it doesn't matter what he does in a media piece. It doesn't matter when Ozil is like ready to play, and then he and he comes out and an hour beforehand he's got a back injury or it doesn't matter either way what I see on a camera.
But you think in the current times that he would emphasize the point of trying to be upbeat and determined looking, and that just wasn't the case. You know what I mean?
I was hoping, I was really counting on him, saying it doesn't matter what I do in an interview, it matters what I do on the pitch, and he went out and shit the bed on Sunday. So
we need a body language.
Sorry, Eoin, can I just say something real quick? Real quick. Standing man 68. I just want to say to you, confidence is a real thing in sports. In sports athletes, confidence is a real thing. It's just one of those things. It's a nuance, and if you don't have it, it can affect your game. Whether it's in football, rugby, fighting. If your confidence is not,
that doesn't mean we have to baby him and get his confidence back and say, "Oh, poor guy."
That's why we have sports psychologists, because it's a big thing in the sport.
Can't they just inject him with some like Lewandowski genes or something?
Cocaine.
Sorry, Mike. Stan's got a point as well, though. In the Leeds game and in the several games this season that we've lost, I think the Leicester game, he's walked off smiling and laughing and walking up to other players and so on. And could you imagine? Let's go back a bit. Ian Wright, walking up and smiling and laughing after he's get done over by a Leicester counter-attack goal by Vardy. No, it would never happen.
Mm-hmm.
No, of course not. It would never happen. But it's not just him. And this is something that's been happening long before Aubameyang turned up. And one thing that I did once when Arteta took over, and one of the things that he promised us actually was changing the culture of the club. For me, more than results, more than anything else, more than even the trophy he got us, I wanted that the most. Changing the culture and the mentality, just that culture shift, that mentality shift, that we want to strive for the best. That's what I wanted the most, from the appointment of Arteta. And he talked a good game.
I have a question. What did you want the most from the appointment of Arteta? I'm unclear on what you wanted the most.
The culture shift. Culture shift. Exactly.
Ignore him. But look, we'll move from a great striker in shit form to a shit striker in great form. Something I want to touch on briefly, lads, is Harry Kane. Something that I've had an issue with for a while, and it's this habit that he has developed of when people are up for headers, he blatantly looks at them and backs into them. This is an extremely dangerous act, which we've seen players all around the world it's extremely badly injured. I think, was it a Korean player or something, fractured his spine in a similar incident. And the FA just don't seem to address this at all. Obviously, Harry Kane is England's golden boy. What do you make, Fergus, of not only the continued motion that he continues to do, putting players at risk, but the FA completely ignoring that this is a consistent thing that he's doing?
It was sent through from a couple of games back where he was doing it again on a WhatsApp group or on Twitter. I've seen it. Hilsey Gooner on Twitter put it up, and Trevor joined me earlier on our podcast, and we discussed this exact point. Trevor played rugby to quite a high standard when he was younger. Much younger. When he was younger, and that sort of taking people out in the air, I'm sure it's probably the same in that fake football that they got over in America, with all the padding and stuff like that and the helmets.
No, you're allowed to do that there, but you have like tons of pads to.
Well, there you go. It's not real sport. That's why. But moving on, it's been banned in rugby, both union and league. And what he is doing, he will injure, he will hurt somebody. I think the FA, or at least the referee board, have been made aware because there has been so much of recent weeks on social media. So hopefully he'll get a red card the next time. But you know what? He'll get a red card and Man United will get a penalty as a result of it.
It's currently being called as a foul the other way.
Yeah, that's the problem with it.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, no, it's just so dangerous. And when you even look at, as you said, the sports, so with such a physical sort of background to it, like the fact that you're so severely punished to be doing stuff like that within rugby, yet it's allowed to continue in this game, especially when you look at the sort of light that's been shone on things such as head trauma and CTE in recent weeks, again, only just last week, and then reckless movements such as this. What I don't understand is the contact. Yeah, and what I don't understand is the morality of Harry Kane himself. The risk to reward is just, it shouldn't even be thinkable in his head to be doing such a thing with. What you have to remember is somebody's career. You could end somebody's career with such a movement, but
other players have done it. Shearer and Rooney are both in the comments in there. Shearer and Rooney have done it for before. Shearer was a master at it.
Yeah, 100%. But it's just something I briefly wanted to touch on before we dive into this last part of the show, boys. Is basically just going to be around Mikel Arteta himself, because he is somebody who is sort of coming under more pressure week by week. And let's just say that the fixtures coming up right up until Christmas don't look in our favour at the minute. But Mike, I'll come to you with this here. His post-match interview, I'll be honest, up until this point, I had not very many concerns. I had a lot of faith in the manager, but that interview worried me. The fact that he said that the team carried out all of his instructions, I'm paraphrasing here, all of his instructions, that they executed the game plan perfectly, that we created not enough chances to win the game. Surely this is concerning for a manager to look on, because in my opinion, the only reason we looked decent in the second half against Wolves and Spurs is because both Nuno and Mourinho let us play. Yeah, that's the only reason. Surely this is a concern now.
If we executed the game plan completely, then he's just basically put the shine on himself for having a poor game plan. To not know how Mourinho's Spurs were going to play against us on the counter and attack us on the one, heavily on that one side. That should have been the game plan. So if they executed the game plan, if that's him not throwing his players under the bus, fine. But then why does he throw Partey under the bus at the same time? There doesn't seem to be a consistency to what he's doing. Now, I didn't watch the post-game press conference. I typically don't like to linger. The game goes off at the final whistle, and I go lie down for 8 hours and hope that when I wake up something's different. But the things he's saying, the things he's doing are all coming apart. And I've always focused more on the mentality and whether the players are going to run through a brick wall for him or not. And that's what as you were saying earlier in the pod, that's what I liked about his early time here, was that he seemed to be changing. He seemed to be changing the culture, and that's what I liked the most. But it is all gone tits up at this point, because he's saying the wrong thing after the match. He's doing the wrong thing during the match. He's alienating players who are busting their ass in favor of players who are jetting off to Dubai and showing nothing on the pitch. And I just don't understand where he thinks that's going to get him. And I'm as close as I've ever been since he's been appointed to being ready to bail, because the one thing that gets me to lose confidence in the manager, I think, is starting to happen, which is cracks in the dressing room with his authority, and it's because of the things he's doing.
Mike, I think it goes deeper than that, really. Yes, I think there are probably cracks in his authority within the dressing room, as you say, but I think fundamentally and culturally, I think he has tried to change the club and bring the club back around more to what Ola was talking about and what we're all talking about, a bit more about remember who you are, remember the name, the badge on the front of the shirt, and people remember the name on the back. And I think he is really trying to get back to that 100%. But the problem that we've got fundamentally is he is not financially going to be backed by this ownership, and the ownership is probably more the issue over anything else. We need 7 players just very, very quickly. You need to get rid of deadwood and poisonous snakes, like, for whatever reason, and you can choose which side of the fence you want to be, whether it's you like Ozil, you don't like Ozil, but Ozil still being involved in this squad needs to go. Kolasinac needs to go. Mustafi hasn't been good enough. The question that Kevin Campbell put to us: when did we see the slide go? You just look at that squad that we've got at the moment. How many of our players would get into, God forbid, we talk about a Spurs side, a Liverpool side, a Man United, who are awful side.
How many players would get into Leicester right now?
None.
Yeah, but the one thing I would say, in response to that, would be that we talk about all these players, and yes, I agree, Ozil, Kolasinac, there's players such as that, but it can't be coincidental that so many players with obvious talent, and they have a track record of showing that talent at this club or other clubs, they can't all hit bad form at one time. They can't.
They did under El Neni as well. They did under Emery as well, and Wenger couldn't get a tune out of them, and Wenger got the tune out of some crap. Really, he did. He got us top 4 after top 4. Whether you loved him or didn't love him in the end, he still got a tune out of some awful players. He got, Karlstrom, whatever. Jenkinson. I love Jenkinson.
It's amazing when you look back. When you look back at the squad we started in the like 2012 to 2014 timeframe. I mean, obviously, relative to other squads, those other squads weren't as good either. But I mean, don't take this the wrong way. I'm not asking for Arsene Wenger back, not at all. But he could hold it together.
Yeah. But the problem is that I have with this here, and I agree that our squad is probably the worst it's been for a while, but I'm only saying that because of the current form of the team. But when you look at our roster, our starting 11, our best possible starting 11, which Mikel Arteta doesn't seem to know, we're not a 15th in the table team. We're not a mid-table team. We are underperforming, whether we like it or not. And when Mikel Arteta come on as Arsenal manager, it was always the prospect of, this is a long-term project. This is going to take time. This is going to take transfer windows. But unfortunately, you can't worry about the long term when everything's fallen to shit in the short term. This is a results business, and how far do we let it go? How far does the club let it go? And it's a case of, you can't just shift on 10 people that don't want to be moved on, and as much as I want to see Mikel Arteta do it, I have doubts whether he can turn it around or not. And something Mike touched on earlier was the fact that Mikel Arteta threw Thomas Partey under the bus, which is something that I don't like. And I didn't like it when he did it to Nicola Pepe the other week earlier. He's done it on numerous occasions with a few different players. To me, that's a sign of a man that is panicked, that is under pressure. 2 players under the bus in such quick succession. Is this sort of aiding that sort of loss of the dressing room that people are starting to talk about? Surely that can't be helping things.
Absolutely. It's not helping things, and it's one of the things that's making me lose trust in what he's doing. Aside, apart from his normal selection. And the thing with Aubameyang, I wanted Aubameyang benched for the Spurs game. I would have liked to see maybe a Balogun that likes to hunt spaces and get around. At least show a little bit more fight. Maybe ESR in the team as well. All these kids done well, because I didn't think a lot of players warranted a starting position in the team this week. And the way Arteta is moving at the moment is almost like he's picking a side against another side, and if you're not with him, it will throw you under the bus, especially if you don't perform. So for me, it's just one of those things where Kev's calling it ruthlessness, which is one way, but at the end of the day, a lot of these players last more than managers. However ruthless you want to be, we saw it with Ozil last season when Emery was being ruthless with him, and who's still here and who's gone, So
who specifically? I mean, bringing Kevin's comment back up. They got Wenger and Emery sacked. Will they take Arteta down? So who's the consistent threads between the three regimes? One is Ozil.
Wait, so can I just jump in beforehand while Kevin's still here? Okay, before I'm sorry to interrupt. I made a joke earlier about Kevin being invited onto my podcast. It was a joke. I love Kevin Campbell. Okay, I'm a very sarcastic person, Kev. I'm so sorry, buddy. Please come on my podcast, please. Anyway, go on,
Kevin. Kevin, if you and I are mates at all, don't ever come on his podcast unless it's his podcast on our channel. So
no. But with that question, Mike, I wouldn't mind jumping in on this. Okay, and I completely agree that the players are a massive, massive problem at this club. But what I didn't agree with is that Mikel Arteta is clearly an inexperienced manager. It's his first job, and he came in and made some big decisions very early on. The exclusion of Mesut Ozil completely from the squad, whether I agreed with it to a certain extent at the time, but in hindsight, maybe it was too big of a decision at the time. Another thing is you can't be throwing players under the bus and then having players like Willian take a fucking trip to Dubai during the international break and coming back and playing an absolute stinker the next week.
This punishment has got to be equal.
There has to be consistency, and I suppose this would lead on to my next question, even Fergus, and it's something that we've been saying for weeks, is that, and even sarcastically said at times when we watch the Europa League a Thursday night, is, oh, why don't we just play this team in the Premier League? And not to the extent of we should field that exact 11, but do you think that it's time now, with so many people misfiring, to give the youth a chance? Do you know, because Aubameyang isn't playing very well, and Nketiah hasn't taken his chances, Lacazette, Willian, while you have hungry kids like Balogun, like Emile Smith-Rowe. I, for the fucking life of me, can't understand why we are playing Alexander Lacazette in a 10 when we have a natural 10 at the club in Emile Smith-Rowe. Give the kid a chance, surely.
Well, ESR has been out injured until recently. He's only breaking his way back in again. But yeah, I do agree with you. But Lacazette played well as a number 10, even though he's a number 9 on Thursday night. Would I play the kids?
It battled well. It battled well. I don't think playing that role, I don't think he necessarily played that role well, but he did battle well as a number 10 and the role of number 10 and finding spaces for your forward. I don't know if he succeeded in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but is that number 10 role existent anymore? Is one question. But to answer the question,
that's what I was trying to play.
Okay. Mm-hmm. To answer the question that I was asked by Eoin, would I play the kids over the seniors? I think ultimately, because of the restrictions that we got on the club financially, internally, the politics that's gone on internally, that's what's happening. And these players are getting played more and more. If you look at some of the players, okay, Balogun is probably not a great example, but if you look at Nketiah, if you look at Saka, okay, he has been a revelation and he is a great player, but he's been overplayed. And the reason he's been overplayed is we don't have the strength and depth in our squad. The reason we don't have the strength and depth in our squad is our owners won't invest in the squad like other owners do. If you look at Chelsea, if you look at Man United, if you look at Liverpool, if you look at any of the top 6 sides, and even if they just tactically buy 1 or 2 players, like Spurs bought, the guy from Southampton, midfield player,
Højbjerg.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, but you
nice Jewish kid.
You'd love.
I'd love to claim him.
My point is
that I'm stuck with Yossi Benny.
We don't have the investment in our squad, or the ability to invest in our squad, so we will play more players. Would I play kids against Burnley? No, because the game is too bloody important. It's a 6-pointer. It might as well be the North London Derby all over again.
6 points.
Yeah.
Mike, you're joking with me. But
I'm despondent that's an actual comment. I'm not laughing and mocking it. I'm saying I can't believe that this is where we are.
Well, here we go. Okay. What was I going to say there?
Sorry.
Oh no, you're all good, buddy. You're all good.
I do start the kids. I start a good number of them on Sunday if I can, and I mean, you're going to start Willian and Xhaka and Aubameyang and Lacazette after Lacazette. So, but
if you saw the way the kids played Thursday, it's how we want to play every weekend. first time, second time, and they're moving the ball sharp.
So I realized that Burnley. So I realized that Burnley was a much
crease.
better team than Rapid Vienna and Dundalk, but I mean the mentality and the game plan. Why not see how it goes against the bottom?
We can't lose more than we're already losing.
We're
already in the free fall.
I agree. I think you need to see a massively changed lineup on Sunday, and
I think maybe it'll give the senior players a kick in the backside, watching them taking their spot in the Premier League.
What we are doing is the most basic thing to do as a coach, I find, when you're struggling to create, which is put it down the wings and put the ball into the box. It's the most basic way of attacking. And when you have players like Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang or Alexander Lacazette or Eddie Nketiah, they don't thrive off situations like that. They just don't. And our inability to progress the ball through midfield is not a personnel problem, in my opinion. It's a mentality problem. Any footballer of that level should be able to turn and drive the ball forward and release a pass quick into somebody's feet. It's very simple. But going back to the fixtures here, boys, because we made a joke, we laughed there when we were talking. But so next up we have Burnley. Then we have Southampton, then we have Everton, then Man City, and then Chelsea. In your honest opinion, lads, how many points could you see us getting from them games?
City's a cup game, but we just did this on Bergkamp Wonderland, and not even if things continue and he doesn't shake up the personnel, I can see us getting 2 points out of those next 5 league games.
Mm-hmm.
2 points.
That's
a draw.
I'll say 4 points.
That's a draw against Brighton and a draw against Everton. And I don't know that we can even beat Burnley at this point. Not with the same.
I think a draw against Burnley and maybe a win against Burnley and a draw against Brighton, because Brighton's done the double on us. I can't even trust us to go and get a win at
the MX.
I can't even trust us to go and get a win. So I'll say maybe a draw at Brighton and a win at Burnley. We never win at Southampton. You know.
I know. It's a sad state of affairs. I think we might be on 15 points by the new year.
It's bad. I don't know where the next one's coming from.
I asked a question, and Eoin, can I jump in as a
go ahead, buddy.
Host for one question? I've half done that halfway through it anyway.
No, I love it.
You can't help it. I started following the Arsenal in the 90s when I came to London in 88 and I started following Arsenal in the early 90s. So I saw Bruce Rock, George Graham and Wenger and onwards from there. So I didn't see Terry Neal and some of the dour years of the 1980s. I'm not sure if any of you guys did, but some people who are watching us and in the comments, is what we're experiencing now worse than the Terry Neal years?
From the stories I've heard, absolutely. Because Amanda Shout Out Princess Guna, she's got loads of stories to tell about her. And I didn't hear good things. I mean, for me, it was from George Graham upwards, but I didn't hear a lot of good things about Terry Neal. And they said it was as bad as it could get in his, under his tenure.
I know that I don't look it, but I was still in my dad's ball bag at that stage. So
you still look like your dad's ball bag.
Hey, I'm going to share the screen because I have to have a photo.
Don't be showing my dad's ball bag.
His dad's ball bag. But I mean, I also got arrived in '88. So George Graham's Arsenal was the only thing I knew from the start. Stan, I know that you've been going longer than that, but I think the difference between Terry Neal's phase and where we are now is that we have what should be better players than we had in Terry Neal's day, and so the underperformance to where we should have been is more stark right now. But Stan lived through the Terry Neal era, and I believe he's saying right now it's worse than Bruce Rioch's tenure. Rioch's tenure is a little unique, I think, in how it came in between.
It was short-lived as well.
If anybody could talk about that, Kev could. But But yeah, it's bad. But the problem is, and you bring up an interesting point, is that, you know, I know football with all the money and the glory and the big teams versus the small team, it's supposed to be a game that isn't cyclical like American sport or like other sports, where there's not supposed to be parity. There's not supposed to be cycles of teams rising and falling and rising and falling. But sport can still be like that. It doesn't have to be because of the money that can be spent, but it is. And, you know, most people who follow Arsenal now, just because of pure numbers and maths, don't remember the Arsenal of before Arsene Wenger. And those that do, many don't remember the Arsenal before George Graham. 17 years in between trophies, or at least, I shouldn't say that because of the FA Cup final in 79, but 17 years between league titles, or 18 years in between league titles, and some awful years, relegation fights, mid-table finishes. We could just be, we had a manager that the world had never seen for 22 seasons, just like Manchester United had a manager that the world had never seen as far as how good they are. And there are cycles. I mean, I just, the entitlement that this is impossible, that this could be happening to an Arsenal. I get what we were promised. I get the move to the stadium. I get the ticket prices. I understand all of that, but there's nothing to say that this isn't going to happen to a team, especially one that is trying to find their way after having such stability for 22 years. And that doesn't mean I'm accepting mediocrity, and it doesn't mean I'm one of those fans that people have to get on Twitter and slag off because I'm not angry enough.
No, do slag them off on Twitter, though. Get yourselves on the Mike's Twitter and
I'll just slag you off anyways, man. How's the come over, Mike?
And I'll just
show me that come over real quick. Show me the come over real quick, Mike.
No, but I think
do it for the show. Do it for the content, man. Do it for the.
But I mean, it's. I'm glad you bring up the Terry Neal years, because we don't just automatically deserve to be top three or top four every year. We should be shooting for that, but I'm sorry, but sometimes teams just go through a bad patch, and it takes a while to get better. And I'm just I'm hoping that the right people get put in place to do that.
Yeah, and I think Kev makes a good point here as well. And I'd say with the wrong culture for a decade, basically we've got a team who has zero fight and passion. And do you want to?
You know who loves culture?
Culture.
Ola.
Me, Ola.
Ola's very important.
Culture guy. Yeah.
It's a big problem, and for me, it's the biggest problem we've got. Forget the results, forget the trophies. That's the biggest problem. We solved that. And everything else will come with it.
I'm taking the piss. He said culture like 8 times in 30 seconds, but I could not agree more with that.
But we have seen this addressed lately, and it isn't so much. I don't think it's an on the field pitch and it's an on the field problem, a personnel problem, and I think that we have addressed that slightly through the additions of Gabriel Martinelli, of Gabriel the centre half, of Thomas Partey, of Kieran Tierney. We are starting to target the right type of player, and here's and it'll lead perfectly on to my last question, lads. In my opinion, I am still very much Arteta in, if we have to fucking label it those stupid titles, okay?
Don't entertain it.
But my only worry,
you're not printing t-shirts.
No, but my only worry is I would disagree with Fergus respectfully. I think that over the past couple of transfer windows, the Cronkies have shown that they are willing to invest, and I think that while it's not maybe comparable to the likes of Liverpool, given our situation, being in the Europa League and COVID hitting as well, I don't think that helps, but I think they are willing to invest, and I think they've put all their eggs in one basket with Mikel Arteta, and that they will try to get him what he needs in January, taking it forward from the summer. But my only worry is, can he make it to January with this squad, with this morale or lack thereof, and get a few more of those types of players in. I would like to see us buy from the Premier League. People laughed when Tottenham signed Højbjerg. Look what he did against us. You know what I mean? Sometimes it doesn't need to be the glitz and glam of La Liga. You can get somebody up from the second division or from lower in the table.
What do you mean, Owen? Maybe buy Zaha for 2 million less than you would have to pay for Pepe? Is that what you mean?
I don't see.
That's
I don't know whether you're being sarcastic.
They got Højbjerg, and we had El Nene that could have done at least close to a job as Højbjerg.
No, but to be fair, I think it's a poor comparison because, to be honest with you, I'm not Zaha's biggest fan. I'm not sure how much of an impact he would make. I think we could see a mirrored thing of what happened to him at Man United. I think he thrives at those sort of clubs.
How much of an impact has Pepe been?
Well, do you want to know what? I hope that Pepe turns it around, but none. But to be honest with you, what I will be looking at more is that if you're looking at a player like the club were almost willing to spend 50 million on Houssam Aouar, throw an extra 20 million quid onto that and go and get yourself a Jack Grealish. You know what I mean? Somebody who's proven in this league.
They won't do that. Look, listen, they spent 27 million on Saliba, who everybody's pinning their hopes on. He's got a red card against AFC Wimbledon tonight in the under-21s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he doesn't, he's got personal problems and everything else. I'm not just picking on a particular player, but I'm just saying the investment that we've done, and this is what more my point, and I think Stan picked it up in the comments as well. They have invested in the squad, but they just invested poorly in some of the players that they've picked. And Pepe being an example, an extremely left-footed, one-footed player who needs 2-3 touches before he can get in the ball, and then he can have a great shot on him, but he doesn't get that time in the Premier League.
But here's one to throw back at you, Fergus, as well. And again, look, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I'm not a Kroenke apologist. Cool. And it's that the Kroenkes openly state that they know nothing about on-field football. You know, and they employ people to make these decisions, and whether they need to do their due diligence better before appointing these people or not. Can you really hold the Kroenkes responsible when they've put their hands in their pockets and said, okay, £72 million highly rated winger, go get him, or here, Thomas Partey, go get him. I'm not quite sure whether the Kroenkes are solely to blame there.
No. The party one, they stuck the hand in the pocket because the only way they could get him was to actually hand over the cash to La Liga. The other ones are done on staged installments, which all players have done. The players are going out, players are coming in, wages and restructures and so on have happened. They didn't have to pay Rambo's wages, etc., etc. But I've lost my complete train of thought. Sorry.
Let me jump in right there. Real quick. Let me jump in right there real quick. The thing, what you're saying about Kroenke, for me, they call themselves, even though, they might agree like Pepe's fee. It's 10 years too late. You call yourself the custodian of this great football club. That's what they call themselves. That's how they see themselves. They've not acted like it. Not in my opinion. I've not seen it. Maybe through their investment, the people that they've put in charge of looking after this club, and they've sat there and watched it drown. We in free fall, and they did nothing about it for so long.
What do you want?
Hang on, Mike. That's where I was going. That's where I was going. The people they put in charge, they got rid of Raul, who was at Barcelona and dealt in football matters. Whatever people think about all the allegations and bits and pieces of people who talked about is aside, but he was a footballing man. Vinay is not a footballing man. Edu has got experience as a footballer. In Brazil, he's got Brazilian contacts. He has got no contacts in Europe, in Spain, in Portugal, in England. He knows SFA about the European market. He has a link with what's the super agent that we're in with?
Kia
Jarabja. And we get Willian, we get Louise, we get these washed up. Are we West Ham in disguise? Do you remember when Ian Wright and Nigel Winterburn used to go to West Ham? It was the retirement ground for Arsenal players. And we have got the retirement ground for fucking Chelsea players. I wasn't going to swear at all.
Do please, I love it. No, but yeah, I agree with you because
he gets paid by how many swear words he can get our guests to do. So
yeah, because it frustrates me because they talk about this long-term project and we need to invest for the long term. You have to make so many short-term decisions, and you know what I mean. How much in total do you think that Willian deal is going to cost this club? Surely we could have went and got a better young prospect with a more resale value, and it's stupid decisions like this that have cost this club in the long run. And again, stupid really. And I think this is the downside.
Is anybody else offering him more than 1 a year anyway?
No,
why
nobody.
3?
Why would you? But look, here's the problem here.
Chelsea offered him 2 years. We offered him 3.
Yeah. I think the question is as well is that I might sound like I'm contradicting myself here. This is the problem with having owners who don't know the game, is that they're constantly appointing people, and the window for corruption and sort of exploitation of the system is so open. You know what I mean? We look at all these deals, and even players that we were being linked with, they were all cage or option. What's the word? Come on, Mike. Save me. Clients. There we go. Yeah. But lads, the last question we'll have tonight basically is what I had mentioned earlier. I'll come to you first, Ola, and it's that: are you Arteta in or out, and how long do we realistically give this man?
Boy, you put me on the spot there. Look, I don't trust him, and every game that's passing, I'm thinking the way we're playing, I don't see a win coming. But every Thursday, he pulls out a masterclass. I'm a Thursday fan now. I like Thursday football. I don't know. That's where I get my win fix. You know what I mean? If everybody was that's the game that I'm most looking forward to. And I never thought I'd say this. And that's how much the club and the dealing from Kroenke all the way down has smashed my expectations to smithereens. I don't have any decent expectation of what Arsenal is going to do, and I shouldn't feel like that as a fan, that loves this great club and followed it for so long. And the way that we're playing right now, everything is unraveling in front of my eyes, and I'm thinking, God, how are we going to fix this? The only way to fix this is to try and do what's proven. Try and get a manager bounce. We didn't get it the last time with Ljungberg. Maybe we'll get it this time.
That's a dangerous way to go about it.
No. Look, at the end of the day, how far down are you willing to go? You say we're dangerous. We're already flirting with danger. We're 15th.
So is this what you're saying, Ola?
I mean, no. Look. Oh, you fucking bastard.
I was going to come
just put a baseball cap on there, and I think it's you.
I don't trust him. I really don't. I wanted Allegri to start with. I really did. I said it right from Allegri became, even before Emery was sacked. When Allegri became available,
well, according to our good friend Andy Nunn, we signed Allegri on the same day that Mainz was created.
He sold it to us. Campbell. He got it. He put the tick on it. You know what I mean? Sold it to. I mean, look, I thought we was going to push the boat to try. Since we missed out on Pep, who was a great manager, and there was common knowledge that we was going to. He wanted to come to us. We missed out on him, and Allegri's become available, and we didn't go and get him. We ended up with Arteta. All right, when somebody comes in, you just you you want it. You know what I mean? You want him to succeed, and I think I'm at the end of the line with him. Look, if he's still there whilst he's in charge, I'll back him. But look, it's difficult. It's getting difficult every week. I'm looking forward to Thursday games on UFC every week. I'm not looking forward to watching us play a Premier League game. That's how bad it's got. It's really bad. It's really bad.
Do you want to know what? I don't like putting people on the spot, but if in the chat you're comfortable, I would like to see the chat throw it in as well, whether you want the manager to stay or whether you would prefer a change of managerial.
No, I want a change, man. I'd like a change if we can.
Because it's just good to, I think, to sort of judge how the fan base is feeling as a whole. But Fergus, what about yourself?
Yeah.
You seem like a level-headed guy.
He does seem like that until you get to know him.
It's the Peroni, honestly. It's the Peroni. You know what? I can see and understand where Ola's coming from. I can see and understand where people are coming from, and the frustration that people are getting, and the fear that people are getting, because where we are in the league, and we talk about a 6-pointer against Burnley. We talk about. I joked with them. Yeah, Tick. And I talked. My boss is a Birmingham City fan, and he was watching the North London derby. And he was WhatsApping me saying, "Oh, this doesn't look good. Call relegation zone and everything else." And I turned around and said to him, "Don't worry, we'll be the first Championship side in the Champions League. Win the Europa League, we still get Champions League. It doesn't matter where we're playing. And ultimately, we need Champions League football."
Win the FA Cup and we get Europa League. So,
yeah, but no, we need Champions League football. Europa League football isn't good enough. It doesn't give us the budget. For now, for stability purposes, I would back Arteta. I don't like this constant merry-go-round of managers, and I also understand that if any manager comes in, be it Allegri, be it Mourinho, Klopp, Eddie Howe, just pick any name out in the stratosphere out there. Anybody who comes in to a job like Arsenal Football Club, which is one of the biggest jobs in footballing in the football world, no matter where we are in the league, will want millions of pounds to buy a player, or two, or three. And remember, the squad that Arteta inherited was even more shit than the squad that Emery inherited. And Emery was not as good a manager as Wenger was beforehand, who got a tune out of that shit team. Mm-hmm. So Arteta in for now. Was that a short answer or a long answer?
Mike?
I was quickly trying to make a T-shirt design that I could bring up on the screen.
Do you want me to talk while you do it?
No, it's not going to work. It was all on one line, so it's not. It's
Troops did it really quick. He got it out like literally after the final whistle.
I'm pretty sure,
and he got hand rolls as well to serve.
I'm pretty sure that was made right before he left for New York. But this is the where is it? Nah, I can't find it. But I'm in, but dude really needs to here's what the T-shirt says. It's all across the top, so you could.
That would sell well.
You couldn't that I mean, we're gonna add that to our
That's a nice line. That's a nice line. I don't even know what the line's saying, but it's a nice line.
What it says,
apparently they serve them up in the George.
Yeah, I think
it's about on par with AFTV merch, to be fair.
Yeah, we can. It's not working. Anyway, it says Arteta in, but he better. I mean, I'm watching you, dude. I'm keeping my eye on you, and I know that worries you greatly. But I am getting worried about some of the decisions that are being made that are tone deaf to what everyone else is seeing. I'm getting worried about the man management. I'm getting worried about dying of COVID before the end of this podcast, but. You can't sack him.
So you don't trust him. That's what you're saying. You don't trust him.
I am losing my trust in him. I would have walked through
losing your trust and not trusting him is the same thing.
No,
you don't trust him.
No, because
you either trust him or you don't.
I'm losing my trust in you, but I still had you on the podcast. So he's got to do something real quick to show that the players aren't going to start just completely downing their tools even more than they already have. Is it too late? I don't think so, but it's getting close to being too late. This December period, if the team doesn't show a little bit more fight, if Aubameyang doesn't come out and start firing again, then you might have to make a reactionary change. I'd love to see him last until May, get the benefit of another transfer window, but I'm completely on the fence right now about it, and I was not even close to being on the fence 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. No, was I? Who then? I know, Owen, you haven't said where your position is, but who would you have instead?
Who, me?
Or Allah?
Mike was just finished, so it was directed a little bit towards Mike, and then whoever else wanted to answer after Owen had answered.
Right. Yeah, go on, Mike.
I mean, we need, at this point, we honestly need a ship steadier. We need a guy who's accustomed to dealing with teams that are, I hate to say that, Rafa Benitez is on my list, but the guy has experience in this type of situation. I know he's already is he under contract still? I don't think he's coaching anymore, but I think he still might be like frozen out from coaching.
Is he in China?
From China, yeah. But the I don't know. I don't like the Poch idea. I don't like. I know Allegri's not going to come here. I mean, it's in the middle of a season. It's a bad time to sack somebody. So I don't think there's a better option right now. So I'm sticking with it. But
exactly.
But there is a point at which anybody becomes better, and you know my thing from 2016 to 2018 with Arsene Wenger, or from 2014 to 2016 with Arsene Wenger, was who else are we going to bring in that's going to be better? And by 2016, I was like anybody else at this point. Yeah. And that's not, you know, at some point you reach that, and that's when you lose the dressing room.
Yeah. In my opinion, as I sort of mentioned earlier, at the minute I'm still Arteta in at the minute, but I've much like Ola, I've reached the end of my tether now, and it's at the point where any likability factor or faith has gone, and now it's simply down to the results that we can get. I think that while like I mentioned earlier, while the process is exciting and having a young manager is exciting, the here and now matters more than anything, and the damage that could be done. Don't forget as well, lads, we have acquired people with the right mentality. Thomas Partey, Kieran Tierney, Gabriel Martinelli. These are players that aren't going to sit and go through this shit. If they have a winning mentality, they will likely want to move on if this goes on for too long. I'll disagree. I think that for me, it's the Christmas period. Once we get to the January transfer window, if we haven't picked up enough points, Big Sam in. That is my choice. No,
and he has to have this face. Please, no. He has to have this face the entire time he's coaching, and then I will fully endorse it.
No, I think that if we make it to the end of the Christmas period, we're still in the position that we're in, still not seeing improvement, I think that's when my patience will run out. I think, and I actually do think that Mauricio Pochettino would be a decent candidate for that job. I think that he's got a history of getting more out of squads than he probably should. I think his style is easy on the eye and probably suits the historical style of Arsenal's football. But look, I really hope that we don't get to that. I don't, because as I say, I really like Mikel Arteta. I think that in his first stint for the second half of last season, he showed some brilliant signs. And I really hope he can turn it around. But as I say, there's warning signs starting to creep in that, like you said, Mike, 2 weeks ago, I wouldn't have thought I would be in this position, but now I have a lot of doubts about it.
And it's not the play on the pitch. It's some of the some of the decisions about who's playing on the pitch. Yes, but it's look, we could go through a year-long patch of poor football and look back and say, well, he's improved the defense quite a bit. Somehow we've forgotten how to create and how to score goals. We finished 11th, awful, but let's get some more players in. But it's the things around that are happening that to me are speaking louder than the tactical and personnel decisions and the poor play. And that's something you can't ignore.
Yeah, definitely not. But that's the end of my questions, lads. Thanks very much for trying to make me feel better. Well, do you want to know what I've exposed all the Arteta outers. That was the main thing. So Ola and Mike, you should be ashamed of yourselves. Back your manager.
I didn't say well.
You did.
Because I'm making a t-shirt doesn't mean that I want him out.
Yeah.
Ola, a question for you, Ola, and probably Eoin as well. Has Mike agreed a bigger fee for you? Because we're only meant to be on here an hour, and now we're an hour and a half. So we got to have a bigger fee, don't we?
He lures you in, and that's what he does. He always tells me just an hour.
No, don't expose my secrets. Your pay packet, your wage packets will be in the mail. Speaking of which, let's give you guys your plugs because everyone here does a podcast besides this one, except for me. Fergus, now that you've emptied your bladder, let us know where we can find you on Twitter. And
thank you very much for that.
And more about your wonderful podcast, which you've had me on for, Guns and Ribbons.
I've just finished off a full Peroni bottle.
You could have put it right back where it came from, and you wouldn't have had to leave.
Close. It was close. It was close.
I've gone in a trash can under the table whilst potting before. I don't see why you couldn't, but
because I'm Irish. You're on the Irish side. We got like manners and etiquette. We were brought up.
You're also a grandpa, and the prostate is not what it used to be. So, is he not the youngest looking grandpa you've ever seen? By the way,
yeah, a granddad to 3 gooners. A granddad to 3 gooners. Where can you find me? Well, you can find me on Twitter on Guns and Ribbons, or at Essex Gunner, as well as my own personal one. I run Guns and Yellow Ribbons podcast, which is just a small podcast, but it's by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans is the strapline we use. We normally do a show. It was a Wednesday evening. We moved to Tuesday just for the last couple of weeks due to my wife wanting to use the same PC on a Wednesday. But this is the we will go back.
Podcasters. I mean,
there was ever an excuse.
You take all the donations and the money that you're earning off of the losses.
We don't do it for donations.
And you buy a new computer.
And we do it because we're fans.
You take the Patreon proceeds.
Don't have any Patreon.
You get a second computer, so.
It's in the process. It is in the process. But listen, the first thing I wanted to say was thank you very, very much for giving me the opportunity to come on and join us. If you do want to check out our podcast, it's Guns and Yellow Ribbons, Guns and Yellow Ribbons on YouTube and on Facebook. And I tell you what, if you want to watch a really, really good episode, it was tonight's episode, which we recorded. And anybody who knows Trevor Hills, Lee jumped on briefly after he was on a charity podcast, Lee Judges, and then he was very passionate about the North London Derby, and then I moved it to Trevor. And Trevor, honestly, if you ever want to know what the emotion of being an Arsenal fan really, really, really is like, go to one hour into our podcast. We normally only do 1 hour, but it went to 1 hour 15 minutes. Trevor spoke for 5 or 6 minutes solid, and he left. He was that upset. You could hear it in his voice. Have a listen. Thanks for the opportunity, boys.
Hey, thanks for joining us, and always nice to have you back on the pod. Ola, where can we find you talking about fighting? And you do the podcast with Chig, correct?
Yes, you can find me on YouTube, The Combat Show, as it says on the screen there, Combat with a K. You can find us on there. We normally do the show Fridays, 9:30, and we do previews and talk about results of pay-per-views. And so if you love your combat sport, we don't just do UFC or MMA, we do boxing as well. So, but I'm not a fighter or anything. I'm just a fight nerd. The real fighter.
You're a lover, not a fighter.
Eoin.
Every time we get together, there's no fighting.
Mr. Eoin is the one that really puts on. Actually gets in the art of it. But I just study the thing, and I love it. So yeah, if you love that type of stuff, come and check us out Friday, 9:30. We'll be happy to have you there.
And what's your Twitter handle? Did you give that out?
Yeah,
and can you give everyone the same?
No, we're not doing that, Mike. We
got to do it again. It's been a while.
We're not doing that, Mike. We are not doing it. I'll leave it to the next time I come back on the show. If I get another invitation to come back on the show, we'll do it then. I promise.
What are you doing tomorrow night? No, I'm just kidding. Well, it's at Black Scorpion 3, Black with a K. That's where you can find them on Twitter. Oh, and you have a podcast coming up on your other channel, Gunnar Crack.
Yeah, Gunnar crack, like a crack on a wall. Yeah, Gunnar Crack. All made me out there to be like fucking Mike Tyson. I'm too fat now. I used to be very good. I'm not anymore. I can still move. I'll fuck you up. I'll fuck you up.
You can still fuck up a civilian, man. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Let them know.
Me and Mike are gonna do a charity boxing match for Gunners versus Cancer next year. Me versus Mike. So.
That would be wicked.
Stateside.
I'm gonna breathe on you.
I would pay
your hand get lost in Mike somewhere.
You punch it in and it just goes inside and it stays there.
Well, that's what Abby told me.
It makes this sound.
What's wrong with you, Mike?
He's got COVID.
What's wrong with you?
No, but yeah, you can find me on Gunner Crack on Twitter or YouTube. Go over and subscribe to that, and obviously I'll be back on here. We'll have a show coming up Friday, and thank fuck it's the Europa League. Hopefully we'll have something positive to talk about. But a pleasure as always, lads, and good to vent some frustration that's been building up.
Yeah. Will you venture down to Tala?
I don't know. I was going to try and parachute into the Aviva, so I was to see if we could get into the game, and then we were trying to swing media passes, but I just kept getting told to fuck off by everybody.
Well, you didn't. I mean, did you use your name or art? Because we are the kings of getting media passes to stuff. So
talk to the wrong boys. Wrong boys.
I had accommodation and everything sorted out in Dundalk. It was moved to Tala. The guys in Dundalk said, "Don't worry, come over. We'll get you down there and we'll get you in." And I went, "Look, if I go in the wrong end, I'm only going to come out one way in a box." So
Dundalk people aren't known for being too friendly, are they?
Well, I did go to Dundalk in 1983 when 82 when Athlone Town, my hometown, won the League Cup, and my uncle was the Athlone Town keeper at the time, and they ended up getting Europa League, as it would be now, football, and I was at the age of 11 or 12. As proud as punch that my uncle was playing in Europe against Standard Liège, and the school used to back out onto the turnstile into St. Mel's Park, as it was. It's a different stadium now, but yeah, he's dead unfortunately now. A very young died, but yeah, no, proud as punch, and that's my claim to fame with Dundalk, and I so wanted to return back.
It's good to see them doing so well, and here's one for you as well. If Dundalk win a match in the Europa League, it's the equivalent to them winning the Irish League 3 times.
From a financial standpoint?
Wow.
Yeah, from a financial standpoint. So
that's why you're rooting for them tomorrow.
This is big.
Thursday?
On the town, come on the town.
This is big. This is big for Dundalk. Then I fuck with Irish people. I love Ireland, man. When
he has a jacket that on the back of it's like I fuck with Irish people.
Yeah, everybody loves Ireland. But they're Irish.
The problem is you fuck with Irish people. Irish people fuck with you an awful lot worse.
Well, you know what? As long as there's Guinness involved, I'm happy, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can do that all day long.
There's some other things involved as well, but we won't.
No, I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
Different podcast.
This yank is going to close it out. Thank you guys for joining us. Always good to end up smiling and laughing after a shit weekend like we've had. Hopefully, the next time I podcast, I will be virus free or dead, one or the other. And either way, the second will probably result in a better podcast. But thanks for joining us, and tune into the Gunner Crack on Friday for the next pod. And we'll be back next Wednesday with another great guest. Talk to you soon.